Mr. President, let's talk diplomacy. Now, I understand that your time with us is a little limited and just a few things we have to converse. Let's look at the world now. The global order is fast changing. Um, what happened a few months ago, that's before November into January this year, has totally changed. Recently, we saw the same European leaders who had a gag order against Putin rushing to Washington with Zelensky to see if they could succumb to something that they would have said no a few months back. When you look at what is happening between Hamas and Israel, in fact, the United States foreign policy as a whole, in my opinion, has not shown any great interest towards Africa. You've seen a few things they've done, probably in Congo, which some would say is transactional. Now, when you observe the way conflicts are being approached, the conflict resolutions are currently being approached, especially over Palestine and Ukraine, that we compare ourselves with Ukraine for the past 3 4 years now. There are times we're advocating and we are saying that if the world can stand against Putin, why will they not stand against Bia? But the trajectory is changing. Things Ukraine said no yesterday, they are almost saying yesterday by some means. Are you comfortable? Peradventure, this same approach visits Ambazonia at a time when our conflict is closely being looked upon. I understand you're doing some groundwork, we'll come to that. Are you very comfortable with the approach of especially the United States in handling these conflicts?
Or as the most important thing is never to be comfortable with what is happening, what probably the US or is doing in one country or the other, or what the Europeans are doing. There's to understand what is happening and make sure that we too can organize and we can we can be able to present our matter in a way that the changing world, the changing dynamics will not leave us out. We have to understand the changes that are taking place, and instead of being comfortable, we see how to align ourselves with those changes so that we are not left out. And also, we should understand that the way the problem is solved is different. Is not going to be one size fits all. There's no way, even within the United Nations and the United States or EU, they will have the same solution for Ukraine, Russia, and then they just go over to Israel, Palestine, and go and rubber stamp the same solution. Every conflict has its peculiarities, and the interests are positioned differently, and the solutions that will be afforded will be according to some specificities. So we understand that we are in conflict, but we are not the same kind of conflict with Ukraine. We are not the same kind of conflict with the Palestinians. We are not the same kind of conflict with like that we have in Syria or Afghanistan. So we have understood our situation, and I think that we are making the necessary adjustments. And as the world is moving, we are also adjusting. We are talking to people using the language of a changing world, so that we can have attention. But we are not naive to think that the way it is resolved in Russia is the way it shall be resolved in Ambazonia. Of course, there's always a principal actor whose changes or change of position can really affect the or everything that is happening. For example, uh, um, United States and their interests and your Russia and their interests in Ukraine. And so when that interest changes, there's a shift in the interest, it can affect a lot of things. It can affect a lot of things, right? But is that same interest, is it present in the state of Cameroon and Ambazonia? No. What is it, if it is in that state? Is it who's the actor in that in this situation? It's not Russia. It's France, or is it Britain, or to what extent? So we are making sure that we talk that language. We do our best. It does not entirely depend on us because we have reached out to certain quarters. Some of them have not even responded to us. But we are doing the right things that we need to do to make sure that we don't miss out in this new uh, this new approach. We don't miss out. We are reach out to the U.S., reach out to parties that matter, and we are reaching out. So we can only do what we have to do and expect that uh, the world will finally align and do make our problem a focus as it's supposed to be. Um, as I said, the world is world actors are more concerned with peace and security. That's the only time they pay attention to issues. If it has to do with peace and security, they are ready to talk about it. But if the situation returns to normal, or if they perceive the situation have returned to normal, you are going to expect that they don't pay much attention. But that's why I say that the struggle is in our hands. Those people who want by every means to destroy us, to stop us, must bring him down. Just imagine, think for yourself, think for a moment. If we actually stop, as people say today, will we be in a stronger position or a weaker position? That's the question to answer. So we are doing everything to make sure that after the major, the hottest spots on the out of Africa, the hottest spot in Africa is Ambazonia. So I'm very, very sure that the matter will attract the attention of some of the parties that we are talking to.
Yeah, you've said a couple of times we're doing a lot of things to make sure that we sustain the resistance. I don't know how on that, but I'm going to ask you another very tricky but direct question that has to do with when it happens that we are now on a spotlight and someone is talking on our behalf, like Trump was supposedly talking on behalf of Ukraine. Okay, what will be your unwavering stand for Ambazonia? Because there's going to be a compromise. At what level will you be able to compromise, Mr. President?
Compromise means what? I can compromise
For
in terms of
instance,
yeah.
if they're asking, okay, it's two-state federation that for them to get involved, because right now Ukraine might be losing some territory as a compromise, which was initially not what they wanted. If they're not willing to stick to that, let's say the United States of America comes to us with that kind of a question, at what level will you be willing to compromise?
Um, First of all,
Yes, sir.
the two states that were decreed in 1961 were United Nations mandated. In reality, though the documents called it two states, it was tantamount to a confederation because I don't know of any federal system that is mandated by the United Nations. It is a system of government that is determined by the institutions that are in place. But the United Nations ordered that it should be a two-state, a nation of two states of equal status. Equal status. Now, that very arrangement presupposes the autonomy of both sides. Their two entities are sovereign and autonomous. That's the only way you can say they should come together and be constitute one thing, but of two which are equal. So it takes us back to the same argument that cannot be possible until sovereignty is restored. I have always argued that if you don't restore our sovereignty, we cannot have any conversation. Whatever will be the future of Ambazonia should be from the place of sovereignty. Our sovereignty has to be restored for us to determine what type, because anything that is imposed on us is not a solution. The 2 state, 10 state, 4 state, 20 states is an imposition. So that it is not imposed on us, our sovereignty must be restored for us to decide which way forward. So this is a restoration of our sovereignty. What we lost is our sovereignty. What was stolen from us was our sovereignty. In the statement of 2 states of equal status, the sovereignty was not lost. It was not supposed to be lost. It was supposed to be preserved and maintained by two entities which came together to create one. But so if we have to do whatever, it cannot be an imposition of La République du Cameroon Parliament on anybody. Neither will it be an imposition by some international organization somewhere or anybody. But that let us to go back to the drawing map means that let us go back to where we were, is the place of sovereignty, and let the people of Ambazonia decide how they want to be with Nigeria, with Chad, or with La Republique, if at all. And if they want to decide that, how that union will be, we will decide that in a sovereign manner. You cannot be imposing on us and say that the problem of annexation and occupation has been resolved. If this is a problem of annexation and forceful assimilation that has been, which is the cause of this war, you cannot resolve that by imposing a solution on us, which is determined by the very actor that is oppressing us, that is occupying us. Sovereignty must be restored, and if the sovereign people of Ambazonia decide that the best way we are going to do this thing is to go back to La Republic with a two-state federation of 2 states and of equal status, who am I? I'm just one vote out of 8 million. I will surely cast my vote.
Mr. President, I am asking these questions because I understand that the United States Embassy in Yaoundé is watching this program. I understand that the State Department follows your every movement very closely. And I understand that we're talking to the international community as the standalone leader for Ambazonia. And the objective of this broadcast by ABC was to enable the world hear your opinion, the perspective, and the stand of the one who is leading the people of Ambazonia at this critical time.